Sky Squad, we are back in the building. What is going on? Welcome to the Ponderosa, y'all. We got to talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 15, episode 2. Dose. All right. And I need to know what y'all going to rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10 because we got a lot to talk about, especially this word aggressive. Okay. I want you to let me know, A, what you would rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10. And then B, do you think that Martell was being aggressive with Kenya or not? Okay. I want you to let me know, was the man being aggressive and what you rate this episode? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to rate this episode like an 8. I really feel like it was kind of like, I mean, after you have an explosive episode on a reality TV show, oftentimes we have the breather episode, and I felt like this was sort of they did a continuation, but it was kind of mixed in with that breather episode where they kind of want you to breathe just a little bit and catch up with the characters and whatnot. But this word aggressive is very interesting to me. And I will tell you what I think after watching the speak on it with Candy, and then doing some reflection. Okay. Doing some reflection. All right. Because not only was the word aggressive thrown around, but the word abusive was also thrown into the mix as well. So we're going to talk about a distinction between the two because I think it's very important to discuss. All right. So we pick up this episode. We are still at the party for Rossi. All right. Kenya is telling Sheree that Martell slid into the DMs at least 6 months ago. I mean, we still got to ask the question, and Sheree will ask that question. Well, why didn't you mention this during the reunion last year when you was asking to speak to Martell on my telephone at the reunion? You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I think we can pretty much all guess that, Kenya is bringing this up because obviously it's a new season. Obviously, Martell is the focal point of this new season, at least from the very beginning. Okay. So I feel like it stands to reason. It kind of feels, it was like, I'm not going to liken it to Giselle bringing up these allegations with Chris Bassett, but it was kind of like, why are you bringing this up now? Clearly, it's for the story. So let's move on from that because I done said it now. Now it's out there. All right. Martell ends up coming over. Mind you, while the Martell and the Sheree of it all is going on, Courtney is bebopping in front of Candy still. Okay. Courtney is, bebop, pop, pop. Okay. Y'all know how Tamar used to say doo-wop, pop, pop. Courtney is beat up, bop, bop. Okay. She is bebopping back and forth, bouncing that head, bop, 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 bop. She actually should be wearing Sonia Richie Rossi's shirts that say bop, 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 because that girl is bopping that head like, I said, Candy. I'm going to get your attention today. I'm going to get in this scene, and I'm going to have the first fight of the season. How about that? Bebop, pop, pop, bebop, pop, pop, bebop, pop, 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 pop. Okay, so... Oh God. So mind you, she's bouncing around the party. Okay. So Candy is asking herself and her team, well, why Sonya letting her walk into that mess, knowing good and well that girl don't like her. Okay. And y'all know, listen, I think I like Sonya. I think she's she's just like you and I. You know what I'm saying? Stars. They're just like us. But I feel like she might be a little too much like us. You know what I'm saying? And we need our reality TV stars, to kind of take a stand. Or not, okay? Because now that I think about it, now that I said it out loud, I kind of feel like Sonya is one of those types of people that you need on the show. Why? Because it's kind of like at times we all felt like Cynthia was kind of like, going with the wind. Not gone with the wind, but just going with the wind. Just the wind is blowing this way, I'm gonna blow this way. I think it was, I mean, we've clearly seen Cynthia can take a stand, okay? But sometimes it did feel like Cynthia was like, oh, I'm going this way, I'm going that way. And Sonya's like that. Sonya's like the wind, just the breeze is flowing, and whoever is saying what in that moment is where Sonya tends to go. You know what I mean? And so I don't understand why Candy was thinking that Sonya was gonna warn her. Just because Sonya went on vacation with you does not mean that Sonya is your bosom buddy. Clearly, you should know where Sonya's allegiances lie, and that is with Sheree and Marlo. I don't care how many times she go with you to Disney World. That lady is not your friend. Okay, so let's just get that out the way. Meanwhile, the group gathers to chat about Sheree finding out about Martell. And Sonya, Richie Rossi, she got to float on with the wind up out of there because she's not doing this at her man's party. Okay, not today, Satan. No. So she gone about her way. Marlo, for some reason, is trailing after her because I don't understand why. But Marlo said, "I'm gonna stay out of trouble in these first 2 episodes. Y'all ain't. I don't know if the check cleared or what. But Marlo said, I'm not giving y'all any today. Okay." Quiet as it's kept, we didn't really see her in this episode either. But I digress. Not a lot anyway. So, except for them earrings falling out her ear. So Sheree calls Martell over, okay, to check out these DMs that Kenya got, or really don't got, okay, because she ain't really got nothing in her DM that really says anything. And Martell at first thinks that he does not have anything in his phone, and then I don't know if he goes back and he checks his phone, because at first he was denying that he was in her DMs. Then he says something to her, and he comes back over, and she calls him aggressive the first time he says something to her. Then he brings the phone back over, and he kind of thrusts it in her and Candy's face, and he was like, "Here, this is what I said. This is what I said." And so was he being aggressive in that moment? I guess if you want to say you trying to prove your point, not really. But I think where it kind of felt like it went a little bit left is when he started saying to Kenya that he bets that she will accept anybody's DMs. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of made me go back and think. Now, I understand if Martell knows that he is the plot, he may be wanting to play that up for the cameras. And I'm just going to speak in real terms, right? If you know you the plot, all right, and you come from the world of reality TV, then you probably thinking, okay, I'm the plot, so I'm going to play it up, right? And I think the difference between Real Housewives of Atlanta and Love and Marriage Huntsville is this. That may work on Love and Marriage Huntsville because the men are uniquely a part of the drama on that show. And so he's probably used to being the plot, okay, or being at least a part of the plot when it comes to his interactions with Melody, right? And so that kind of does make me go back and reanalyze some of his actions as I watched Love and Marriage Huntsville, because we'd seen them argue so much that I think a part of us normalized maybe some of the behaviors that we saw him exhibit. And so when you then take those same behaviors and you place them into the Real Housewives of Atlanta, where the women are the focus and not the men, then now you've entered a different territory, right? So I don't think he understood the difference, right? So as a man coming into a show specifically focused on the women and the drama between the women, I think what he should have done was, listen, Sheree, here are my text messages. The only person that he really needed to address in that situation is his woman, okay? And not the other women, because it is never going to play out well for the man that does that on a Housewives show. It is just not. The men on Love and Marriage Huntsville can be more activated because they are being paid to do so, okay? On Real Housewives of Atlanta, the men are not being paid to do so. And so the women treat the men in the drama a whole lot differently, right? So now when you look at Martell's actions and you think about it from the context of how we view Real Housewives of Atlanta and how the women view it, it is easier to see that why Kenya would deem his actions as being aggressive in comparison to how he may have been perceived on Love and Marriage Huntsville. Do you guys follow my logic here? So when we look back at Love and Marriage Huntsville, now as I'm looking through the lens of a Kenya, would I perceive his actions towards his own wife as aggressive? Whereas maybe I just thought that he was being an a-hole. Now I'm looking at it a little bit differently. Okay. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. I'm trying to digest it and I'm trying to determine what the differences are because this is literally this is the same Martell. This is the same Martell. Okay? This is the same Martell. So Martell is doing what Martell has always done. Martell is Martelling. But does it look different because he's doing it on another show and it's a different woman other than his wife or his ex baby mama or whatever? Y'all let me know in the chat. So at this point, things begin to like unravel, okay? And we start to get a lot more we start to get Kenya and Martell kind of going at it. And at this point, really is Kenya who is calling him a POS and basically telling Sheree that listen, he did it to his ex-wife. He's a cheater, you know, this, that, and the third, and he is going to do it to you. And she kind of refers back to some of the other instances where, you know, Sheree has not necessarily had the best taste in men. But in this moment, Sheree is going to stick beside her man and she is going down with whatever ship he's on and she is going to follow her man, okay? Even though they are not exclusive, she's not trying to hear nothing that Kenya got to say. Outside in the car, he does not regret a single moment or a single thing that he said to Kenya because he felt like she was coming for him, okay? So, do I feel like it was aggressive? I do feel like it was aggressive. I can see how it would be perceived as aggressive. I can see how where, especially on a show like this is not something that you should do. It's not kosher. It doesn't fit the climate of what is expected on this show. Would I take that action? No, I have come to realize that when you are addressing a woman, you have to do so, especially as a man, from a certain distance with not going above a certain tone and just handling it in a way that does not come across as threatening. That is absolutely the truth. Period. Now, we're going to talk about the other side of that when we get to the conversation with Sheree, okay? Let's move on. So was y'all watching the show in real time? Because if you did, you will have seen Candy's KFC commercial play right after this opening, sort of like one of these like earlier segments of the show. And I was just thinking to myself, I wonder if Sheree and Marlo are just, turning over on themselves in their beds as they watch it, seeing her on the screen. Because, they don't like her, right? And so in my mind, as soon as I saw that commercial come on, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Sheree is somewhere calling Popeyes trying to get a deal. But that's just me. Meanwhile, Drew is back. Okay, she's back from Chicago, where she was visiting her father. Unfortunately, we learned has Alzheimer's, and so she says that she was spending some time with him. And if you guys watch Carlos King's YouTube page, then you will know that he says that allegedly she hadn't signed on the dotted line for that contract, which is why we didn't see her in episode 1. Okay. Now, moving on from that, we get her talking about, her music career and how she's interested in music and, how she was the Beyonce of the group that she was in. Oh, yes. Don't you know she's listen, aside from dating, aside from allegedly dating, what was it? LeBron James. She's also the Beyonce of the group that she was formerly in. Go figure. Anyway, she talks a lot about her and Ralph and their connection to music and how they're in such a good place at this point in time, and it is really because of the music that is bringing them back to the place where they once were. And I'm like, this is very, very interesting, very, very interesting. So she also learned about Candy's blow up with Courtney, with Bebop and Courtney from an Instagram page, Housewives of ATL. Make sure you guys are following them. I've referenced them before. So shout out to Housewives of ATL. So anyway, Candy then meets with Sonya. Now, this conversation right here to me, it tickled me pink. Okay, it tickled me pink because the most interesting thing that came out of this moment right here, well, it was a couple, because Candy, and we learned that Candy and Sonya went to Disney World together. We also learned that they were going to BravoCon, and so it was interesting that we got that kind of breaking the fourth wall. But the most interesting thing about this whole thing was when Sonya brought up Courtney, talking about, Candy went someplace, a restaurante or whatever, and then mentioned the restaurante, and then the next week or whatever, the crowd was ghetto when they showed up. So the to me, baby, I was on the floor when Candy say, so when she was talking about me, what did you say? Okay, baby, let me tell you something. First of all, I ain't ever seen anybody on one of these shows ask that question. And it's such a good question because everybody on these shows spills the tea. You know what I'm saying? They all spill the tea. They all, do the oh, somebody was talking about you. Let me bring it up to you. So I can have something to say. You know what I'm saying? So I can have some type of moment to hold on. I'm trying to bring up something so that they can have some type of moment to share on camera. And this was, Sonya's moment. But in an interesting move, Candy asked her, "Well, girl, what did you say when she was talking about me?" And I think that is such an interesting question. The next time, and I think it's there's so much value in that. The next time somebody tell you what somebody was saying about you, the best thing to ask them is this question: "Well, girl, what did you say when they said it?" That's really the question. Because the mark of a good friend is what they say and do behind your back when somebody else is talking about you. Now, Candy was asking, "Well, did you defend me?" Now, I referenced earlier Sonya being like the wind, okay? Not bebopping like Courtney, but Sonya's kind of like the wind, and she's just breezing through the scenes, trying her best to stay afloat on the show. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she's a beautiful girl. She's a track star. She's a runner. She's a track star. But she's just kind of, again, breezing her way through. So I don't understand what Candy thought that Sonya was going to do. Now, if Sonya was Kenya, okay, then maybe. But the fact of the matter is, Sonya is not Kenya. Sonya ain't a true blue friend to Candy. Just because she went with you to Disney World, Candy. Listen, Candy girl, if you invited, chances are, if you invited any of us to Disney World, we probably gonna go with you, okay? If we got the coins, or if you funding, if you paying the fees, you know what I'm saying? So I just feel like it was funny to me, but I feel like Candy's expectations of Sonya are way too high. Because Sonya is, again, windblown. Okay, she's windblown, and you can't really expect much from a windblown person, to be quite frank. And so Sonya, face is on stuck, stammers and stutters her way through a response, claiming that she had done somewhat defended Candy, but the clip shows that she just laughing and swaying in the wind as she typically does. Um, listen, poor Sanya, and shout out to our friends over at Everything Housewives for capturing this moment. I had seen it earlier, and I wanted to reference it because I just thought it was so hilarious to me. But again, Candy Girl, like you expecting way too much from In the Wind, Sanya Richie Rossi. Okay. Meanwhile, we find out also that Sanya wants baby number 2, but the Rossi is too busy down in the Austin with the business trying to make a coin that she ain't got no time, that they ain't got time to make a make baby number 2. Anyway, Candy and Todd um are at the Blaze. All right. They at the Blaze. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Sweet Cherry. I appreciate you. They down to the Blaze, and they are basically trying to figure out a way to get Blaze to connect better with, the patrons, and trying to get. I'm sorry, y'all. There's something actually like flying in the room, and I'm like, it's a fly, and I'm like, I want to catch it. Okay, with my bare fingers. That's how I am. Okay, I'm very anal about that type of thing. So I'm like, how did it get in here? And I want to catch it. Just keeping it 100% with y'all. So if y'all see me looking off camera, that's why. Because in my mind, I'm thinking I'm about to snatch it up with my 2 fingers, like Mr. Miyagi. Okay. Meanwhile. So the problem is for Candy, Todd wants to keep opening up all these restaurantes. Okay. You want to do this, that, and the third. And he says that he wants to keep opening these restaurants because it's the most money that he's ever made. And she's like, you want to do it for the money? I don't know that I would have said that. Okay. I might have been like, you know what? I love opening things. You know what I'm saying? I love opening the restaurantes because I love fine cuisine. You know what I'm saying? I would have said that. But I can't, I gotta respect him for keeping it all the way 100. But it would feel to me like, oh, why did you say that? Because now everybody's gonna use it against you. Like, that's all you want is the coin, right? And he says because he wants to, be able to fund his own productions, which I understand. Listen, there's a lot of things people do for side hustles that they don't actually love, but they do it for the coin. But again, I don't know that I would have said it. That's just me. So anyway, Candy's cousin arrives, and he is the one who was unfortunately hurt in the incident down to the Blaze. Now, when he shows up, because he's in a sling, I'm going to tell you the truth. I mean, I would, only because I've seen the clip at this point, I would be expecting them to talk about it if I know what's going on in the news. But Eric, the producer, kind of comes in and is like, well, okay, we're not really talking about, what we need to talk about in this scene. So are we going to talk about it or not? All right. And so, Candy's like, well, we're not going to talk about that. And Todd is like, we can't talk about that. And which I respected because I feel like if it is still, undergoing the legal circumstances and things like that, I think we have seen enough with Jennifer Williams on Basketball Wives to know that you can't be talking about these things that's playing out in the courts, okay, on the television screen because it can be used against you. Fair enough, okay? But it's also fair that Eric, the producer, would want them to talk about it because that's really the reality of what's going on. And I think any good producer would want to know if they can talk about it. So I don't blame Eric for pushing it, but I also don't blame them for not being able to talk about it in the way that he probably wanted them to do so. But Candy does give us the tea about what happened in the confessional. So it really, I feel like, I don't know how much further we need to go with it than that, because I felt like we all already knew about it, but it is nice to see that, okay, they are talking about it in some way, shape, or form. Again, I don't know how else far we supposed to go with it, but Sheree had to get her little digs in, which is to be expected. Meanwhile, Kenya meets with her friend Akila for some tennis with the girls. This scene was really, I mean, not much really happened. They just kind of talk about, Kenya dating and the situation with Sheree and Martell. And then aside from that, Sheree meets with in the wind Sonya. You know what I'm saying? And they chat about how Martell felt ambushed and how Kenya also had called Rossi aggressive. Okay. And Sheree says they don't have any receipts on Martell, any real ones. And Kenya's behavior isn't sitting well with her. Drew heads to the stew to meet, and by stew, I mean studio. She heads to the stew to meet um the engineer that Candy had recommended. So it's her and her husband Ralph, who, by the way, is a piano player. Okay, so he got to play the piano and he got to produce Drew. I don't know. Did this scene? Y'all might be mad at me for saying this, and I understand if you are. Okay, and perhaps because I don't have a lot of references for a lot of other married couples that are producing music together like that. I'm not even gonna say it because I feel like it's just interesting to me. I was writing. Wait a minute. Can I ask y'all a question? Okay. Was Ike and Tina Turner married? I don't know. I was just in my mind. I was just wondering that as I was thinking about Ike and Tina for some reason, and as I was writing my notes about Drew and Ralph, and I was like, he seemed like he got a whole lot of control over her, over the things that she is working on. But doesn't it oftentimes seem like he has so much control and involvement in her projects, but in retrospect, do you ever really see much of her involvement in his world? Even when he was writing the book, I felt like she hadn't really even read the book, whether or not that was from lack of interest or whether or not that was just from him not wanting to share it with her. When I really think back on it, it seems like he has so much involvement in some of the things that she does, like creatively. And maybe she puts him in that position. I don't really know. But it always feels like she has no clue what's going on with him. And if she does, she finds out because she finds it on the phone, finding out what, the assistant and things like that, trying to give him a massage. But then when you look at it, it seems like he has so much to do with everything that she is doing. I just feel like that is just interesting to me when you look back on it. Think about it. So as they're talking to the producer, Drew is just, unabashedly, we are doing the best that we've done in 8 years. Now that we're working on this music together, now that he's producing this song for me. Now, oh wait, Ralph got to stop things and said, hold on, man. You know what? Can we, Drew, because Drew asked first, can I sing the song for you? Because I just want you to know, what we doing over here, what we got going over here. And then Ralph is like, can I play the piano for you, man? Can I sit down on the keys for you, man? Can I just do the thing? And that's when it felt very much like, I felt like she was gonna bust out into Rolling on a River. You know what I'm saying? I left a good job, and I really did. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know I shouldn't say it, but I got to say it because that's how I felt when I was writing my notes. And so I'm gonna go ahead and say what I was thinking. Fine, I said it. Okay, sing the song, anime. That's exactly what I felt like when I was watching it. Okay, that's what I was watching. Sing the song, anime. That's what it felt like. Period. Sorry. Now that I got that out my mouth, they got big visions of singing that song, that one song on Tiny Desk, and I was thinking to myself, don't you got to have like multiple songs to do that? But I guess you should always dream big. Anyway, over at the Sheba over at the She by Sheree distribution center. oh, oh God. So over there, she got about 273 orders to ship. Probably of that $275 tracksuit she got. Y'all must have been buying it. Okay. Somebody buying it. 273 orders. That's not bad. You know what? If you got 273 orders, let me do some math on that real quick. You're doing 200, let's just say for the sake of argument, 273 orders times 274. She done made $74,802. Okay. Now, let's say the tracksuit probably is about $20. Okay. So let's just take away. wait. Okay, so the tracksuit 274. Okay, so minus $20. Okay, let's be generous because we got to do shipping. So 274 minus $30 is 244. So let's just say she had 273 orders at 244. She made $66,612. Shout out to Sheree. Shout out to Sheree. I ain't mad at it. Get your enterprise on, baby. Get your enterprise on. Okay. That was just me doing some theoretical mathematical equations because, as you guys know, okay, Sherlock Homeboy is always on the case. Okay. Meanwhile, back to the distribution center. She's complaining about wrinkled shirts, and then she tells us, "Oh, you know, when She by Sheree launched, you know, people couldn't get to the site. That's because the website crashed. Is that what happened?" Is that what happened? So we get to see Kenpai on the screen detailing exactly the frustrating process that we all went through when we all had our credit cards. I had my credit card ready. I had my credit card right here. It was ready. I was ready to make my order. And then there was nothing there. There was absolutely nothing there. There was nothing on the screen. Nothing to be purchased. Nathan, not a thing. Now, I thought I was going to be purchasing fashions from the fashion show, but none of that has materialized ever. Okay. Tracy says, and she looked like she was not trying to pay any extra money to have her order steamed out. Girl, don't nobody want no wrinkled shirt when they open up their box. Okay, Tracy, you right. We don't want no wrinkled shirts. Not for $274. Okay, not for $274. For $274, I'm ordering this tracksuit. It better be starched. Okay, I better have creases in it. All right, and I don't even like no crease, especially not in those sweatpants. But it better be some creases in that. Meanwhile, Kenya stops by. So they get to talking a little yang, you know, a little yada yada. And ultimately, we get into number one, why Kenya didn't say nothing before about her and Martell. And she says, "Oh, well, she didn't think they were serious, but now that they're serious, she needed to say something, yada, yada, yada." Okay, Kenya. um, But Kenya wants to know why it's okay for him to disrespect her. And Sheree thinks that because Kenya got caught in a trying to create some drama, that Kenya's trying to flip the narrative. Sheree says she didn't hear Martell say that Kenya checks all the DMs from all the men's or whatever. And Sheree says that Kenya is trying to make something out of nothing. Okay. So then Kenya's thing is, it's not okay for this man to be aggressive or abusive. Now, let's talk about it. Kenya said I think it's one thing to say that someone is aggressive or disrespectful. I definitely agree with her on that. Abusive, I feel like we've kind of entered into another territory at this point. Because I feel like when you say that, you really got to have proof of that, in my opinion, because that has taken things to another level. I don't know that I would say that. Especially not and especially having this platform, I cannot say that. I can say that what he said was aggressive. I can say that what he said was disrespectful. But I think Kenya is speaking from the place of someone who has experienced abuse, and she's also experienced where it starts. How did you guys feel about that? I think this is where she was going with that as well, Aisha. It can eventually lead to that, but I just feel like I think there is also some merit in what Sheree was saying in that there's two themes that Kenya has mentioned. There's the having been through the abuse, and then there was also this idea that she is the lone single woman in a group of people who have partners. And I think that there's something triggering about that for her. So this is a touchy situation for me because it is really about what abuse looks like through her eyes and from her lens. And the disrespect was towards her, not Sheree. And in Sheree's perspective, she's saying, well, he was defending himself. The lines are blurred because I do think that he was disrespectful to her. And for some reason, I think that for Kenya, that is a road that leads someplace else. But I also agree with Sheree is we have to be careful about how we label other people, especially black men and black women in this time. And so I feel like their conversation was kind of light, but the severity of the conversation is, I think it has much bigger ramifications than what could really be shown in a reality TV show. I feel like it's much deeper than that conversation allows us to really go into. Um, I don't know. Deuce Esquire says we kind of have proof of the verbal and emotional from seeing how he speaks to Melody. Remember Ponderosa, Mel, and Martell had he called his wife at the time and mother of four of his kids a garden tool. I do remember that. I do remember that. Veronica says, I can't stand women who will get up in a man's face and expect the utmost respect. Also, do you guys remember she did this on a girls' trip the season Phaedra was on? Yes. Layla, race absolutely has merit in in a situation like this. I think because we have clearly seen situations where if a black person is accused of something, they're much more likely to be hurt over an accusation by the powers that be. Let me just say that. Than someone who is not black. We know that. So I don't know. I don't have the answers for this one. I really don't. I wanted to do this video as a regular video because I had a lot to do today. But then I was like, I need to feel the pulse of how y'all are feeling about this issue because I felt like it was too deep for me to really feel like I could have this conversation alone because I'm like, it's too much. Um, the 5 minute conversation that Sheree and Kenya had on the show doesn't really encapsulate the implications of what they're saying to me. Um, Tracy says, "Do you think if Martell was Todd, that Kenya would have felt the same way?" I think that as you guys, did you see Todd during that situation? I think that Todd kind of knows. Like even when him and Peter got had that moment back in season 6 when Peter said, "You know what it is." I felt like he said something to that effect, right? I felt like that was a signal that okay, when the women are getting into it, the men just stand to the background, just stay in the back. Even when Candy was arguing with Bebop and Courtney, Todd played the back, right? He played the back. So I feel like Todd understands how to maneuver in that situation. And that's why I said what I said earlier about Martell on his show. He's being paid. Okay. Um, and when the camera turns on, things get amped up on housewives shows. The men are not allowed to go there. Um, because they're not a part of the drama. And so the women do not want the men to be participants in it. Um, Only one, Adrian says, we can't keep coddling black men who behave aggressively just because some of them have been historically maligned by white people. Martell wouldn't have done that if Kenya had a man with her. Um, I think that you are correct in your statement about men who act aggressively, but I also think that my only thing is in this instance, was his actions abusive? That's what I'm asking. Because aggressive, yes, I think we all agree on that. His actions were aggressive, right? But were they abusive? That's my question for you. Or do you guys feel like aggression and abusive behavior are the same? It's very interesting, and this is why I say it's harder to have a conversation about. Well, it's not hard to have a conversation about. I feel like we can have conversations about anything, but I think it's going to be harder to agree because I feel like everybody has a different perspective on what each term means and what each term leads to, right? So, but if we don't ever have these conversations, we never could put issues on the table. So I like it. That's why I'm like, let's do it live. Okay. Let's have the live Ponderosa so we can just put it all on the table. And it is what it is. Okay. Um, but that's the tea for this episode. We could go on and on about this topic because I think that it is something that we've all had some experience with in some way, shape, or form. So we all have our own opinions, and that's what is great about this channel. Please make sure to put your comments down in the description if you are interested in doing so, and also, don't be rude to people in the comments. You can state your opinion, you can disagree, but you could also do it respectfully. That's what we talk about on this channel as well. Now, with that being said, that is the tea for this week. Next week, we got Candace from the Real Housewives of Potomac on. We've got Marlo versus Drew, and we've got more Candy versus Courtney of the Bebopping fame. All right. With that being said, I will catch you all in the next video. So I'm Richie Skye, the author and publisher of The Wickedest Wives, Desiree's Desire, which is book 1 in a series. This book is about redemption. It's the story of a disgraced journalist who has lost everything. And now she has to rebuild her life brick by brick. And what better way to do that than to join a reality TV show? Why not? Now, not only are we talking reality TV, so there's going to be scandal, there's going to be a little bit of deception, backstabbing, a little romance, and why not throw in a sprinkle of murder to really round out the excitement? So I really want you guys to dive headfirst into these books. Desiree's Desire is just the first of many to come. So I'm super excited for you guys to read this, and I want to know exactly what you think. So be sure to follow, like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.